Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. How are you all doing? It's that time again, it's the end of another month, so today I'm going to be telling you about all of the books that I've read recently. But first, my giveaway announcement. A couple of weeks ago I did a Women's Prize long list review video, and in that video I was hosting a giveaway with the lovely people at Jacaranda Books, and it was to give 3 of you the chance to win Bernice L McFadden's Praise Song for the Butterflies and also a copy of her book, The Book of Harlan. Thank you so much to everyone who entered the giveaway, you're all so fab. But after using one of those random name generator things, I am pleased to announce that the 3 winners are Barbara Buchsbaum, What Fee Found, and Spring Into Reading. So well done to you 3, I hope you absolutely love the books. If you want to contact me via my email address or Twitter, however you want to get a hold of me, then send me your addresses and we will get the book sent out to you as soon as possible. And thank you again to the people at Jacaranda Books for making this giveaway possible. You're all very kind. So my reading this month was pretty Women's Prize focused, unsurprisingly. I'm really sorry to all of you that don't really care about the Women's Prize long list, but it won't be going on for much longer, I promise. This month's reading was really enjoyable for me. I really enjoyed all of the books I read, so let's talk about them. So the first book that I read this month was a Women's Prize long listed book, and that was An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. This novel is set in Southern America and it focuses on newlyweds Celestial and Roy, who are just settling into their lives together when Roy is wrongly convicted of raping a woman and is ripped apart from his wife. This novel is told through 3 perspectives. You get to see from Celestial's perspective, Roy's perspective, and their best friend's perspective. And I absolutely loved this structuring. This novel is all about its central characters. You get to see all of these characters change and how their relationships change. None of these characters are perfect. They've all made mistakes and they've all been wronged. And I love a complex character, so this was great for me. This novel also explores broad themes of love and loyalty, which are 2 things that I absolutely love to read about in novels, and it also explores themes of race and justice, and also black masculinity and femininity, which was really interesting. You got to see all of the pressures that the characters feel from these things. My reading experience of this novel was quite intense. It was very immersive. I definitely felt as though I was experiencing all of the things that these characters were experiencing, and they had a lot of shit to deal with, so it was quite exhausting. I thought the way that Tayari Jones managed to put me into these characters' lives and make me feel the way I did was quite impressive. I didn't think this novel was perfect by any stretch. I definitely enjoyed the first half of the novel much more than the second. I found the characters' voices to be so much more distinct in the first half of the novel and thus much more engaging to me. A large part of the first section of this novel is epistolary. It is told through letters, and I absolutely loved that bit. I felt like the characters' voices came through so strongly there, and that was definitely my favourite part of the novel. So there were definitely some things that I thought could have been done a little bit better in this novel, but overall I really enjoyed it. I think it was really good. It's a very solid character-driven novel that has a lot of depth and heart to it, and I would definitely recommend it. So in the end, I gave An American Marriage 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read this month was another Women's Prize book, and that was Ordinary People by Diana Evans. This novel is set in South London in 2008, and it focuses on the life of 2 couples. So firstly, there is Melissa and Michael, who are dealing with their newborn and their house and struggling with a growing distance between them. And then there's also Stephanie and Damien, who are struggling with the death of Damien's father and various other marital problems they are facing. This is another character-focused novel focusing on ordinary people living their ordinary lives, my absolute favourite thing. This novel is at once very intimate, focusing on these individual characters and their mindsets and their beliefs and their hopes and dreams, but it's also very universal feeling. It's very wide-reaching. It feels as though everybody will be able to relate to these characters in some way or another. There are a lot of complex themes explored in this novel, most prominently one's identity and how that relates to love and sex and parenthood and aging, and I thought that was done so well. This novel is really perceptive when it comes to identity, and it was very thought-provoking for me while I was reading. There were some aspects of this novel that didn't completely convince me. There was a supernatural storyline that ran throughout this novel that went completely over my head. I mentioned it in my Women's Prize review video. I don't know if I'm missing something really big that's going on in here, but whatever it was lost on me. But overall, this was a really good, solid read. It ticked a lot of the boxes for me when it comes to a character-focused literary fiction novel, and I particularly liked how insightful and perceptive it was. I like how much it made me think about myself as well as the characters. Overall, I gave Ordinary People 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read this month was a poetry collection, and that was Soho by Richard Scott. This is a poetry collection that I received from Cameron for Christmas, and in the past I had heard it likened to Don't Call Us Dead by Danez Smith and Spacecraft by John McCullough, which are both poetry collections I absolutely love. And this definitely lived up to that. It definitely had those kind of vibes. Richard Scott explores many aspects of love in this collection, and he talks about our roots and our history, and gay shame is explored, and trauma. He also looks at sexual encounters quite heavily in this collection. If you don't like poetry about sex, then I wouldn't pick this up, but it's really interesting to read about. He kind of explores what it is to give yourself to another person and trust another person, and there are also moments of real light in this poetry collection. Real moments of hope. This collection builds itself up to its final, longest poem, Oh My Soho, in which you walk through the streets of Soho at night in a search for acceptance and belonging and for one's identity. I really enjoyed a lot about this collection. The themes it explores are right up my street, and I found a lot of the poems to be really insightful and quite hard-hitting. I also really enjoyed the style of the poetry. It's very easy to consume, but it's not overly simple, and there are definitely moments of lovely imagery. That being said, I wasn't blown away by this collection. It wasn't my favourite collection ever. I didn't feel a very deep connection to it all the way through. I didn't find as much as I wanted to in the poems, and it didn't move me as much as other poetry collections have. Overall, I do think this is a good poetry collection, and I would definitely recommend it to you if it sounds interesting to you. It's evident to me that Richard Scott is a very good poet. This probably just wasn't the best collection for me. As I usually do when I review poetry, I'm now going to read you one of the poems in here that I particularly like and that I think sums up the collection really well, just so you can get a bit of a flavour of the poetry. Someone's having a party. So there's clearly some kind of street party going on outside. It's been going on for about 5 minutes now, so I think I'm just gonna carry on filming the video and hope that it isn't too loud in the background. So the poem I'm going to read you is actually the opening poem, and it goes like this. Boys were my saplings, my whiff of green, my sprouts, 100 soft palms reaching for my warmth. Boys were my herbs, square-stemmed, furred, scented with musk, dank, clove and lovage. Boys were my crops, my ripe red yield, my seeds, each one exploding onto my lips like sherbet. Boys were my vines, my creepers, my climbers, tattooing my neck and thighs with suckle. I'm so distracted. Boys were my nettles, my thistles, my thorns, tickling me with scratches and painting me scarlet. Boys were my berries, my doll's eyes, my yew, bitter on the tongue, dizzying and psychedelic. Boys were my pitchers, my fly traps, my Venus, a petalled mouth wet throat around a grave. So in the end, I gave Soho 3.5 stars. The next book that I read this month was a Women's Prize book, and that was Praise Song for the Butterflies by Bernice L McFadden. This novel is set in West Africa, and it follows a young girl called Abio, who is sent to a religious shrine as a sacrifice by her parents when bad luck befalls her family. Throughout the novel, Abio is enslaved in the shrine for 15 years before she is freed and has to learn how to live her life again. I absolutely love this novel. I fell head over heels in love with it, and I am so glad that the Women's Prize made me pick it up. This was a very educational and eye-opening novel for me. The practice of ritual servitude in Africa isn't something I knew basically anything about before going into this novel, so that was very interesting and totally shocking for me to read about. I was also just totally invested in this story while I read it. I absolutely loved the characters. I loved Abio a lot. I loved seeing her from being a young girl to being a woman. It was great to see the way her character developed, and I cared about her and sympathised with her a lot while I was reading. And the side characters in here are all really interesting as well. We get to learn about Abio's parents and her aunt and some other girls at the shrine and a woman who opens a rehabilitation centre. The storyline is also very engaging. I found it to be very shocking and very emotionally impactful, and this was all just heightened by the beautiful prose in this novel. I said in my Women's Prize review video that this book gave me Carletta Yossini vibes, and I stand by that. This is very impressive writing. I do think there could have been a little bit more done with this novel. I think it could have benefited from being a little bit longer, and the pacing of the novel was just a bit off for me. We get to spend a lot of time with Abio when she's younger in the first part of the novel, and that was fantastic. I loved that, but I wanted that from the latter parts of the novel as well. I wanted to spend more time with her in the shrine. I wanted to learn more about the other girls at the shrine, and I wanted to learn more about her recovery afterwards. Overall, I absolutely loved this. I just wanted more from it. I found it to be very impressive and very impactful. It's not an easy read by any means, but I found it to be very impressive and I couldn't recommend it more highly. Overall, I gave Praise Song for the Butterflies 4.5 stars. And the final book that I read this month was another Women's Prize book, shock, and that was Ghost Wall by Sarah Moss. This novel tells the story of teenager Sylvie, who joins an archaeological group with her parents in the north of England. While they're on this trip, they seek to recreate the lives of people in the Iron Age, so they forage their own food and live in really old style huts and use really prehistoric style tools, etc. So I absolutely loved this book. I was so blown away by it. The most striking thing about this novel for me was its prose. It is so descriptive and evocative and sensory. It's not very conventional, and there isn't much of this novel at all. It's really quite short, but it's so tense and shocking all the way through. The story in here is so thrilling and memorable. You end up not knowing what is pretend and what isn't, what has become or has always been real. Acts and rituals that members of the group perform become increasingly alarming and dangerous, and the climax at the end of this novel is just breathtaking. I also loved the exploration of the characters in this novel. It was so interesting to see where all of the different individuals stood, and group mentality was explored in here. The father in particular was a fascinating character. He was fucked. Am I allowed to swear now I've been monetized? The father holds a very outdated view of gender and masculinity, to say the least. All of these ingredients together created such a stunning atmosphere in the novel. It's very chilling and slightly whimsical and fantastical. There is such fluidity between the past and the present, and ultimately this novel is a very bold comment on the issues that we still face in modern Britain. I am absolutely going to be reading more of Sarah Moss in the future now. I own Bodies of Light, I think, because I found it in a charity shop at some point, but I'm so interested in reading The Tidal Zone as well. So yes, I absolutely adore this novel. Normal People is still my favourite on the Women's Prize list because I absolutely love that novel and I don't think anything could really top it for me, but I thought this was phenomenal. And unsurprisingly, I gave Ghost Wall 5 out of 5 stars. So those are all the books that I read this month. I really enjoyed them all. I would love to know your thoughts on them, if you've read any of them, or if you want to read any of them soon. Also, please tell me down below what you've been reading recently. I always love to hear what you've been reading and how you've been finding them and getting recommendations from you all. Once again, well done to the 3 winners of the giveaway. I can't wait to get the books out to you, and please let me know how you find them when you read them. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. You're all the absolute best, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye.